Welcome to the DePIN State presented by 𝐒𝐮𝐻. I'm Nick Hawks. On today's episode, we have Matthew Graham from Ryze Labs. He's the managing partner there. This episode is sponsored by 𝐒𝐮𝐻 Labs. 𝐒𝐮𝐻 is building Ethereum's fastest layer 2 powered by the Solana virtual machine. 𝐒𝐮𝐻 combines Solana's performance and scalability with Ethereum's security to get the best of both worlds. You can read more about 𝐒𝐮𝐻's mainnet at 𝐒𝐮𝐻.builders. We'll have a little bit more on them later in the show. Before we get started, remember to hit the like and subscribe button, smash the bell, all the things that helps us bring great guests like Matt to you. Matt, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, Nick. Thanks for having me.
I'm super excited to have you on. I guess we should start outside of crypto and congratulate you on this recent squat PR of 451 pounds.
Okay, thanks. Just for fun. Try to stay a little bit young.
Yeah. No, it's great. And I see across the space that there are a bunch of these different folks who are interested, not just in the virtual world, but also make sure they maintain their physical capacity.
Sure. I think it's good for centering oneself. I feel like I'm actually, there was a period of time when I was, 10, 15 years ago, I was a chain smoker and very out of shape and lived a very different lifestyle. And I think that living this type of lifestyle, I'm actually much more effective at work. Yeah. So it's important for being healthy first and foremost, of course, but I also think it makes me very significantly more effective at work.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I'm a big believer in maintaining all the capacities across physical, mental, and spiritual. I guess that brings us, maybe we start at the beginning, is sure. You're the managing partner over at Ryze Labs. What brought you to that? And then we're going to get into DePIN. What brought you to DePIN?
Sure. So my background for many years is emerging markets fintech, and we've been involved at Ryze in the crypto space for years and years, investing in projects such as Solana and Arweave in the DePIN space. And so we invest all around the world. And then our superhero ability is that we have team members on the ground in emerging markets from Egypt to Singapore and many, many places in between that are super important. And so collectively, when we invest in projects, we can bring you to 3 billion plus people across all these idiosyncratic emerging markets with local experts that also fully understand finance, technology, and international.
Got it. Okay. And you guys started looking at blockchain stuff in what, 2013, something like that? So you've been at it for a while.
2013 was when I professionally got involved. Yeah. At Ryze, we've been involved since, I guess, 2015.
Got it. Okay. And then I guess this emerging markets thing
Ryze,
is
formerly Sino Global. We rebranded to Ryze because Sino reflected our China-centric roots, but we've long since expanded beyond just China. Sino, of course, meaning related to China in some way. Just in case some people might not know that. I know you know that, Nick. But so we rebranded because we've long since outgrown that initial mission. So we wanted an evocative name that better reflected where we are today. But I just wanted to make clear that we're Sino and now Ryze.
Now Ryze. Okay. And let's talk about a couple of these emerging markets, because one of the things that certainly I'm seeing on the DePIN side, it seems like DePIN is kind of splitting out to two separate audiences, or maybe two separate kind of locus of power. One of them is in China, the other is in Europe. Are you seeing the same kind of thing? Like I see the IOTech system on one side and the Peak system on the other, and they're both saying like, hey, this is the system to build these DePINs on. They both got plenty of talent in there. Are you seeing the same thing, or am I missing something there?
Sure. So I would say that Greater China has always had an enormous appetite for many aspects of DePIN. Filecoin was extremely hot here for a substantial period of time, for example. I think that this market has a natural and deep affinity for various types of hardware-based solutions. And I think that will continue to be the case for some time. I do think that it tends to be substantially speculative in orientation, which is a challenge.
Yeah. No, that's
what I said. Was huge. Absolutely gangbusters. Not so much anymore, but it was absolutely gangbusters for a long period of time in Greater China. It was enormous.
And it lit the way for Helium, which is really the kind of progenitor for DePIN,
I
as they
always was a little bit surprised that Helium was not uh, did not kind of catch the attention of the greater China market more than it did, which I
huh
think continues to this day. But Filecoin was very huge.
was a banger. Okay, and then it sounds like you're seeing all kinds of markets that I'm not seeing. I hadn't heard of Egypt being a place where there's any DePINs, and that could be to my ignorance and detriment, which can be sometimes stunning. Is what's going on in some of these emerging
Sure. So
markets?
we're
Tell me about some of the projects.
we're from Egypt to Singapore. So we got boots on the ground in India. We've got people that cover Southeast Asia. We cover a variety of different emerging markets. Yeah.
Okay, and is there anything that is super exciting in any of those markets? You're like, oh, you got to check this out. Look at these guys; they're on the move.
I think that we're always seeing a lot of innovation coming out of our beloved Indian engineers, and I certainly expect that continue to be the case with DePIN. I think my overall take on DePIN is it's still early innings. I think even only a handful of the top or most prominent DePIN projects have really achieved product market fit. If we're not talking about their speculative driven usage. So I think that with 3 years from now, I think most of the top 10 DePIN projects will be composed of names that don't even exist yet. So we're very much on the lookout for new entrants.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing as well, and my partner Max talks about it a bunch, that DePIN is really this way of exploring a business opportunity, and you
Sure.
go into it kind of not knowing who the customers are, which is unlike any business. Do you see the same kind of thing, or does that make sense to you?
I think it does. I think DePIN is a very elegant way of solving the cold start problem for sure. I just think that we're refining go to market and discovering that some aspects for certain types of project for go to market are much harder than people at first may have realized. So of course, Helium struggled with 5G because of all the regulatory and similar roadblocks. I think there are a lot of similar situations like that. Plus, I think we have to have much stronger product market fit. Even when we're telling a compelling story about how the products need to be used, I think we need to really challenge ourselves to think about how high the hurdle is for jumpstarting an entire network of users, even if we have a little bit of a solution to the cold start problem. That's a very high hurdle to meet, and so we really have to ask ourselves questions like, how often do you need your map refreshed, and is that a need that is so compelling that it will cause a network of people to form around a use case, things like that. And then we additionally have to be asking ourselves questions about, is decentralization really needed? I'm not a decentralization zealot. I believe that some situations always there's a continuum. There's a basket of use cases that are best suited to decentralization. There's a basket of use cases that are best suited to centralization. And there are many things where multiple models can be quite useful, and both will kind of coexist. But I think that we're struggling across those two dimensions. Is decentralization really needed? And is the potential use case so compelling? Not just, hey, oh yeah, that would be cool, I would like to have more of that. But is it so, because that's very different than saying it's so compelling that you're going to allow for an entire network of people to at least partially self-organize around a use case. It needs to be really compelling for that to happen. And I think we're not quite hitting that bar most of the time. I believe that will change, but in my view, that's where we are today.
100%. Yeah, let's come back to that in a second. Let's take a quick break to talk about today's sponsor, Eclipse Labs. One of the cool parts about doing this show is we talk to tons of projects across the space, including back-end nerdy stuff that helps deepen projects. One of those is today's show sponsor, Eclipse Labs, who's building Ethereum's fastest layer 2 to support several deepen projects. Eclipse levers the best parts of the modular stack, Solana for execution, Celestia for scalability, and Ethereum for security. Eclipse is committed to helping projects build on Deepin. Check them out at eclipse.builders and check out the interview we did with Neil at Eclipse if you haven't seen it yet. All right, Matthew, let's circle back to this idea
Sure.
of like, what are the fundamental questions for a DePIN project to answer? And this idea of like decentralization, or is decentralization needed, is certainly one of them. What are some other questions you think that a DePIN project needs to kind of answer as they're going in or before they're going into their market?
That's a great question. I mean, I think that it really, most people are failing to answer just the first two questions that I posed just now. But I think it's really a challenge in terms of, I would encourage DePIN projects to try to find a way to make a use case that's extremely compelling to a niche group of people such that they absolutely have to have it, and then maybe try to find a way to expand that circle over time rather than trying to appeal to 5 billion people at once day one. I think that's one suggestion that I would have. If you can serve a niche first and start to build a network around that niche and then expand adjacently, expand horizontally, expand vertically, either way, doesn't matter. But if you can first find your 50 super fans, your network of 5,000 people, they absolutely have to have your product, and then slowly expand from there. I think people will have a much easier time doing that rather than saying, well, we have a TAM of 5 billion people and we're going to build a network around that. I believe that most great businesses, not all, but most for sure, started by being able to find a niche that no one else was really serving, serve it best in the world to the point that you had basically super fans of the product or service that you were offering, and then expand from there. Very few businesses have been created by trying to serve hundreds of millions of people day one. I just don't think the world works that way. So that's the other suggestion I would make. Even if you can have trying to have a network of 5,000 people that absolutely are obsessively loving your product and then expanding from there. And I'm not talking about speculation use cases. I'm talking about actually obsessively loving your product. They need it. They have to have it. Like my coffee in the morning. For me, it's like my coffee in the morning. I have to have my coffee in the morning, right? Like I have to have it. Like you're not going to get in the way of me and my coffee in the morning. Like it's just not going to happen. You have to just let me have my coffee. So that's if you can have people that are fans of your product, like people are fans of their morning coffee, even if you only have 5,000 of them, then you can expand from there rather than saying that we are going to have 1 billion 5G customers or something like that. I don't think people are going to have a lot of success trying to appeal to billions of people day one. There are exceptions to this. I do think in many ways Solana, for example, was built day one with the view that they could serve billions of people. So for sure there are exceptions to this rule, but I think most people will have a much easier time if they're trying to serve and build a network around a niche of people that obsessively want what they have to offer. Start that way. That's the other suggestion that I would have.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I think the counter argument to that is that the whole idea of DePINs is that you spread out the CapEx so that people can basically find things that you didn't even know you were looking for. Now that is super inefficient. Sure. But that's kind of the other side of that. I guess maybe
I'm open-minded to that. I'm just skeptical of it in practice, I suppose.
Yeah, and I guess we haven't really seen it hit yet. If you take Helium as the example, the idea was that if you have a global LoRaWAN, what can you do with it? And it doesn't look like right now there's a lot more you can do with it. than if you just have your own private networks. There are companies like TrackPack
Right.
that are doing this kind of cool job of tracking stuff all over the place, and certainly Helium on the 5G side is working a very different.
That's a little bit my concern, right? While I have tremendous respect for the Helium team and what they've built technically, I'm not convinced they have PMF at this point.
Yep, and PMF is product market fit, and that's just the
fit.
We've used that term a couple of times. We kind of assume that people know it, but it basically means that the market wants what you're selling, or wants what you're selling.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, let's wrap the thing up with the stuff that nobody wants to be on record with. But what are the kind of predictions, or what are you seeing in the markets where you're saying it seems like the narrative is switching from, hey, this was the depths of the bear market, and now we're coming out of it. That's kind of what I believe as well. But you certainly have way more different connections than I do.
Sure, I share the view that we are on the cusp of a next bull market. I think 2024 is going to be a tremendous amount of fun for our industry, and within 3 years to 4 years, this is going to be a $10 trillion asset class. So we are here to stay.
Love it. Well, on that happy note, I hope that your squat PRs keep up with the market if that's true. And we'll catch you later. Thanks for coming on.